I was always seen as the disappointing daughter, while my sister was the golden, best read it. My name is Claire, and I'm 32 years old. All my life, I was labeled the disappointing daughter, despite trying my hardest to earn my parents' approval. My sister Amanda, 2 years younger, was always their golden child, who could do no wrong. They showered her with praise while my achievements gathered dust. But on my wedding day, everything changed when the truth about Amanda finally came to light. Family secrets have a way of surfacing at the worst possible moments. Before I share what happened, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to hear the shocking truth about my sister. Growing up in suburban Boston, our family appeared picture-perfect from the outside. My father, Thomas, was a successful accountant with his own firm, and my mother, Eleanor, was a former beauty queen who transitioned into a lucrative real estate career. We lived in a beautiful colonial-style home with a perfectly manicured lawn in an upscale neighborhood. Anyone looking in would have thought we had the ideal American family life, but appearances can be deeply deceiving. From my earliest memories, I was always the odd one out. I was a bookish, introverted child with a passion for writing and art. I preferred the company of characters in novels to the chaos of the playground. My sister Amanda, on the other hand, was everything I wasn't. She was outgoing, athletic, naturally beautiful, and socially adept. She drew people to her like moths to a flame, while I struggled to connect with others. The contrast in how our parents treated us was obvious to everyone except them. When I brought home straight A's on my report card, my father would barely glance at it before asking why I wasn't involved in more extracurricular activities. "Colleges look for well-rounded students, Claire," he would say dismissively. But when Amanda brought home even a single B on her report card, they would take her out for ice cream to celebrate her effort. One memory stands out painfully clear. When I was 14, I won first place in a statewide essay competition. My English teacher called my parents personally to tell them what an extraordinary achievement it was. That evening at dinner, my mother mentioned it briefly before launching into an excited 20-minute monologue about Amanda making the junior varsity soccer team as a freshman. My essay trophy was placed on a bookshelf in my bedroom, while Amanda's soccer trophies lined the mantel in our living room for all visitors to see. My 16th birthday passed with barely any acknowledgement. My parents forgot until halfway through the day, then hastily picked up a grocery store cake and a gift card on their way home from work. 2 years later, Amanda's Sweet 16 was a lavish affair, with nearly 100 guests, a professional DJ, and a designer dress that cost more than my entire wardrobe combined. During high school, I worked part-time jobs at the local library and later at a coffee shop to save money for college. Amanda received a generous weekly allowance and was given a brand new car for her 17th birthday. When I asked about getting a car, my father looked at me as if I had asked for a private jet. "We can't afford 2 cars for teenagers, Claire. Besides, you can take the bus to your job. It builds character." My mother constantly critiqued everything about me. My hair was never styled right. My clothes were always wrong for my body type. I was either too thin or needed to lose weight depending on her mood that day. "Claire, why can't you put a little effort into your appearance? First impressions matter in this world." Meanwhile, Amanda received nothing but compliments even when she went through a brief rebellious phase of dyeing her hair purple and wearing ripped clothing. My father was equally dismissive of my interests. When I expressed my passion for literature and journalism, he scoffed. "That's a nice hobby, but it's not a real career path. You should focus on business or law if you want to be successful." Yet when Amanda mentioned a passing interest in medicine, he immediately began calling her my little doctor and bought her expensive medical textbooks she never opened. To cope with the constant feeling of inadequacy, I started keeping journals. Writing became my escape, my therapy, and eventually my passion. I poured my heart onto those pages, documenting the daily slights and creating elaborate fictional worlds where I was valued and loved. Books became my refuge, and I spent countless hours at the library, finding solace in stories about characters who overcame adversity. The only person in my family who ever truly saw me was my Aunt Sarah, my mother's younger sister. Unlike my perfectly polished mother, Aunt Sarah was artistic, unconventional, and warm. During her occasional visits, she would make time to look at my writing and art, offering genuine praise and constructive feedback. "You have a real talent, Claire," she told me once. "Don't let anyone dim your light." Those rare moments of validation were like oxygen to my starving soul. By the time senior year arrived, I had made a decision that would change the trajectory of my life. I applied to colleges across the country as far from Boston as possible. When I received a scholarship to Northwestern University in Illinois, I accepted immediately despite my parents' pressure to attend a school closer to home like Amanda was planning to do. The night before I left for college, my mother came into my room as I was packing. I thought just for a moment she might express some pride or even sadness about my departure. Instead, she said, "I hope you'll make more of an effort to fit in at college, Claire. This is your chance to reinvent yourself." As if the person I already was needed complete reconstruction. That night, I promised myself that I would never again measure my worth by their impossible standards. Arriving at Northwestern University felt like taking my first real breath. The campus sprawled before me, a landscape of possibilities unburdened by the weight of family expectations. My roommate Zoe was a music major from California, with bright blue hair and an infectious laugh. Within days, she had drawn me into her diverse circle of friends, none of whom seemed to find me lacking in the ways my family always had. "You're hilarious, Claire," Zoe said one night after I had made a sarcastic comment about our literature professor. "I don't know why you always look so surprised when people like you." The truth was, I had spent 18 years being told I wasn't quite right, so acceptance felt foreign, almost suspicious. During my freshman orientation, I discovered the university newspaper and immediately signed up. The editor, a senior named Diane, read my sample articles and put me on staff that same day. "Your writing has a voice," she told me. "Raw, but with real potential." For perhaps the first time in my life, my natural abilities were recognized without qualification or comparison. I limited my calls home to once every 2 weeks brief conversations that inevitably turned to Amanda's accomplishments. She had chosen to attend Boston University, living at home to save money, my mother claimed. Though the brand new wardrobe and frequent social events Amanda posted on social media suggested saving money wasn't really the priority. "Amanda made Dean's List," my mother announced during one call, though I later learned from Aunt Sarah that Amanda had barely passed her classes and my parents had made a donation to ensure her academic standing remained solid. "Amanda is rushing the best sorority," came the news another time, despite the fact that I had just told them about my article winning a regional college journalism award. My father's only comment about my achievement was, "That's nice, but is it helping you network for a real job?" While I was thriving academically and finding my voice through journalism, I was also learning how abnormal my family dynamic truly was. My friends talked about parents who celebrated their successes, who called just to check in, who sent care packages and visited campus. Their stories made me realize that what I had experienced wasn't just strict parenting or high expectations. It was something more fundamentally broken. During junior year, I landed a prestigious summer internship at the Chicago Tribune. That same summer, I attended a journalism conference where I met James, a talented photographer 2 years older, who had recently started working for a major digital publication. He had kind eyes, a quiet confidence, and listened to me talk about my passion for investigative journalism as if every word mattered. "You light up when you talk about your work," he said during our third coffee date. "It's beautiful to watch." His sincere admiration was so different from the dismissive attitudes I'd grown accustomed to that I almost didn't know how to respond. As our relationship developed, James was the first person I fully opened up to about my family. We were sitting in his apartment one evening when a call from my mother left me fighting tears. Amanda had apparently been accepted into a summer program at a prestigious hospital, and my mother spent 15 minutes detailing how proud they were before asking as an afterthought how my newspaper job was going. "That's not normal, Claire," James said gently after I hung up. "You know that, right? Parents are supposed to celebrate all their children, not just one." Something about his straightforward assessment broke a dam inside me. I shared everything: the years of comparison, the constant criticism, the feeling of never being enough. Instead of dismissing my experiences or telling me to get over it, James was outraged on my behalf. "Your accomplishments are extraordinary," he insisted. "You've earned everything through hard work and talent. They should be shouting your praises from rooftops." With James's support and the distance of college, I began to develop confidence in my own worth independent of my family's assessment. I graduated with honors, though my parents barely acknowledged it. They attended my graduation ceremony, but spent most of the time talking about Amanda's acceptance to medical school. Another claim I would later discover was greatly exaggerated. After graduation, I accepted a full-time position at a respected Chicago publication. James and I found an apartment together in a vibrant neighborhood, and I began building a life that reflected my own values rather than the superficial markers of success my parents had always prioritized. I was writing stories that mattered, developing a reputation for thorough research and compelling narratives, and sharing my life with someone who appreciated me exactly as I was. Meanwhile, Amanda's perfect life as portrayed on social media began showing cracks. Her posts became less frequent, and when she did share updates, there were inconsistencies in her stories about medical school. During rare family calls, she would change the subject when I asked specific questions about her classes or clinical rotations. I noticed, but didn't press the issue, having learned long ago that questioning the family narrative only led to being labeled jealous or petty. For the first time in my life, I was finding happiness on my own terms. My relationship with my family remained strained, but I was learning that I could create my own sense of belonging in the world. As James often reminded me, family is about who loves you, not just who you're related to. With every passing month in Chicago, I was proving to myself that I could thrive without my parents' approval. 2 years into my career, I broke a major story about corruption in the city's housing department. The investigation took months of careful research source development and late nights poring over documents. When the story was published, it sent shockwaves through the city government and earned me a prestigious regional journalism award. My editor called me into his office the day after the award ceremony. "Claire, this is exceptional work," he said, sliding a letter across his desk. It was a promotion offer, making me the youngest senior investigative reporter in the publication's history. "You've earned this. Your dedication to finding the truth is exactly what journalism needs right now." That evening, James took me out to celebrate at an upscale restaurant overlooking Lake Michigan. As we finished dessert, he reached across the table and took my hand. "I've never been prouder of anyone," he said. "You're changing the world with your words, Claire." The contrast between his genuine pride and my parents' lifelong indifference couldn't have been starker. When I called my parents to share the news of my promotion, my mother's response was predictable. "That's nice, dear. Did you hear Amanda was accepted into a surgical residency at Massachusetts General? She'll be working with the top cardiac surgeon in the country." I later discovered from Aunt Sarah that Amanda had actually dropped out of medical school after the first semester, but my parents were keeping up appearances. James and I had been living together for 3 years when he proposed. It was a crisp fall evening, and he had suggested a walk through the botanical garden where we'd had our 5th date. He'd secretly arranged for a photographer friend to capture the moment when he got down on one knee beside the koi pond. "Claire, you're the strongest, most talented person I've ever known. he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, a vintage sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. Later, James told me he'd consulted with Aunt Sarah about what I would like, knowing my mother's taste ran to ostentatious displays while I preferred subtle elegance. This small detail, his understanding that I wasn't just a smaller version of my family, made me love him even more. Planning a wedding brought all my family issues back to the surface. I debated not involving them at all, but James gently encouraged me to at least give them the opportunity to participate. "You don't want to look back with regrets," he said. "We can always set boundaries if needed." The first phone call with my mother about wedding plans went exactly as I feared. She barely asked about my preferences before launching into what would be acceptable for a family of their standing. "The country club would be appropriate," she said. "And of course, Amanda should be your maid of honor. She has such excellent taste." I took a deep breath and channeled the confidence I'd built in my professional life. "Mom, James, and I want a small ceremony at the Chicago Botanic Garden. We've already reserved the date, and my friend Zoe will be my maid of honor. She's been like a sister to me throughout college and beyond." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice cold. "I see you're still determined to do things your way, regardless of family traditions. I suppose we'll need to discuss how much we're willing to contribute to this alternative celebration." Despite her disapproval, my parents agreed to contribute financially to the wedding, though with numerous conditions. My father insisted on seeing a detailed budget and questioned every expense. $8 per person for cake. That's highway robbery, Claire. Amanda's friend makes beautiful cakes. She could do it for half that. I stood my ground on most issues, compromising only on the guest list to include some family friends I barely remembered. Throughout the planning process, I noticed strange inconsistencies in my parents' complaints about money. They balked at the cost of flowers while casually mentioning their recent kitchen renovation. They questioned the price of my dress while my mother wore a new designer watch to our venue walkthrough. Around this time, I was working on a story about financial fraud that involved individuals using family members' identities to secure loans and credit cards. Something about the patterns of deception triggered memories of odd comments my father had made over the years about creative accounting and utilizing all available resources. I dismissed the connection as my investigative mind drawing parallels where none existed. 6 months before the wedding, Aunt Sarah called me. Our conversations were always private, as she and my mother had a strained relationship. "Claire, honey, I think you should be careful about how much financial information you share with your parents regarding the wedding," she said. "Things aren't what they seem with Amanda or your parents' finances." When I pressed for details, she was frustratingly vague. "It's not my place to tell family secrets, but I want you to protect yourself. Trust your instincts, Claire. You always were the perceptive one." The call left me unsettled, the journalist in me sensing a story beneath her careful words. As the wedding date approached, I found myself increasingly anxious about bringing my two worlds together. James's family was warm, straightforward, and genuinely supportive. The thought of them witnessing the dynamic between me and my family made my stomach knot with apprehension. But James, ever my anchor, reassured me. "Anyone who spends 5 minutes with you knows your worth. Nothing your family says or does can change that." 6 months before our wedding date, I made my first trip back to Boston in nearly 2 years. James couldn't join me due to a major work assignment, so I faced my family alone. Driving the familiar streets to my childhood home, I felt myself shrinking, regressing to the insecure girl I had worked so hard to leave behind. The house looked different somehow. There was a new luxury SUV in the driveway alongside my father's recently purchased sports car. The kitchen had been completely renovated with top-of-the-line appliances and imported marble countertops. My mother greeted me wearing designer clothes and jewelry that seemed excessive even by her standards. "Claire, you look healthy," she said, her standard backhanded compliment implying I had gained weight. I bit back a retort, reminding myself I was only here for 3 days. I could maintain peace for that long. The family dinner that evening was an exercise in discomfort. My father spent most of the time on his phone, occasionally glancing up to ask pointed questions about James's financial prospects. My mother dominated the conversation with stories about their country club friends and Amanda's supposed medical accomplishments. Amanda arrived late, kissing everyone on the cheek in a cloud of expensive perfume. I hadn't seen my sister in person for over a year, and I was struck by the changes in her. Despite her designer outfit and perfect makeup, she looked tired. Her smile seemed forced, and she avoided making direct eye contact with me. "So, how's the hospital treating you?" I asked during a lull in conversation. "Still enjoying cardiology?" Amanda's fork clattered against her plate. "It's challenging," she said vaguely. "The hours are brutal, you know how it is." She quickly changed the subject, asking about wedding details with sudden intense interest. Later that evening, I wandered into my father's home office looking for a book I had left there years ago. The desk was cluttered with financial statements and what appeared to be collection notices hastily stuffed into folders. A quick glance revealed several credit card statements with unfamiliar account numbers, but a very familiar name, Claire Thompson. My name. Before I could investigate further, Amanda appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing in here?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Dad doesn't like people going through his things." "I'm looking for my old copy of Jane Eyre," I said, stepping away from the desk. "Amanda, is everything okay? You seem on edge." For a moment, her carefully constructed facade cracked. "Not everyone has the luxury of running away to build a perfect life, Claire," she said bitterly. "Some of us had to stay and deal with reality." "What reality?" "From what Mom and Dad say, you're living the dream life they always wanted for you. Top of your class in medical school, prestigious residency?" Amanda laughed, a hollow sound with no humor. "Is that what they're telling people? God, the delusion never stops." She seemed about to say more, but was interrupted by our mother calling her name from downstairs. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the credit card statements with my name, Amanda's strange behavior, and Aunt Sarah's warning. The next morning, I made an excuse about meeting an old friend and drove to Aunt Sarah's apartment across town. "I knew you'd come," she said, ushering me inside. "You always were too smart to ignore the warning signs." Over coffee, she confirmed some of my suspicions. My parents had been facing financial difficulties for years, the result of bad investments and living beyond their means. Amanda had never completed medical school, dropping out after failing multiple classes. "Your father's accounting firm is not what it appears," Aunt Sarah said carefully. "There have been rumors of ethical violations, clients leaving abruptly. Your mother's real estate business barely breaks even, but they keep up appearances at all costs." "And Amanda? What's her role in all this?" Aunt Sarah sighed. "Amanda is trapped in their web of lies. She's become what they molded her to be, maintaining the illusion of success while falling apart inside." "But Claire, there's more going on that even I don't fully understand. I've heard things about credit accounts, loans in different names." Before leaving Boston, I met with Taylor, my only real friend from high school. Over lunch, she revealed what local gossip said about my sister. "Amanda's always showing up at high-end stores and restaurants spending cash like water," Taylor said. "But no one can figure out what she actually does for a living. Last month, she bought a $15,000 watch, and the week before she was begging a mutual friend to cover her rent." By the time I boarded my flight back to Chicago, my journalist's instincts were screaming that something was seriously wrong with my family's finances. Part of me wanted to launch a full investigation to follow the paper trail and expose whatever deception was occurring. The other part, the daughter who still somehow longed for parental approval, wanted to focus on my upcoming wedding and future with James. When I shared my concerns with James that night, he listened without interruption. "Claire, whatever is happening with your family, You need to protect yourself," he said finally. "If they're using your name for financial purposes without your consent, that's identity theft, even if they're family." The next day, I checked my credit report for the first time in years. What I found sent chills down my spine. There were multiple credit cards, personal loans, and even a mortgage showing on my report that I had never applied for. Some dated back to when I was barely 18, just starting college. When I called my parents to confront them, they were dismissive. "Don't be dramatic, Claire," my father said. "Every family handles their finances differently. We've always taken care of everything for you girls." "Taking care of things doesn't include opening credit accounts in my name without my knowledge," I argued. My mother's voice turned cold. "After all we've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us, with accusations. If you continue attacking your family this way, perhaps we should reconsider our contribution to this wedding of yours." The threat was clear, but for once, it didn't intimidate me. "Do what you feel is right," I said. "James and I will have our wedding with or without your help." For the first time in my life, I hung up on my parents. That evening, Aunt Sarah called. "They're trying to bully you into silence just like they always have," she said. "But you're not that insecure little girl anymore, Claire. I'll help however I can, even if it means going against my own sister." As the weeks passed, my parents alternated between love bombing and threats. They sent an unexpected check to help with wedding expenses, then called to remind me how ungrateful I'd always been. Amanda texted constantly about being my maid of honor, though I had already told her Zoe had that role. The pressure was relentless, but so was my resolve to maintain boundaries. James's parents, witnessing the dysfunction from a distance, stepped in with practical and emotional support. "Family should lift you up, not tear you down," James's mother told me. "We're here for both of you, whatever you need." Their unconditional support was a revelation showing me what family love was supposed to look like. With 3 months until the wedding, Amanda called me in tears, begging to be included in the bridal party. "Please, Claire, it would mean everything to me to stand beside you on your special day. I know I haven't always been the sister you deserved, but I want to make it right." Against my better judgment and James's gentle concerns, I agreed to let Amanda be a bridesmaid, though Zoe remained my maid of honor. "You have a generous heart," James said when I told him my decision. "Just be careful it doesn't get broken again." Amanda's behavior during the subsequent wedding preparations was erratic at best. She missed our first bridesmaid dress shopping appointment, then showed up late to the second, insisting the color I had chosen wouldn't complement her complexion. During the venue walkthrough, she kept suggesting changes that would double our budget, acting offended when I declined. "If you really wanted a beautiful wedding, you'd listen to someone with taste," she snapped after I rejected her suggestion to replace our planned wildflower arrangements with imported roses. The old Claire would have apologized or tried to smooth things over. The woman I had become simply said, "This is my wedding, Amanda, not yours." A month later, I discovered that $3,000 had disappeared from the wedding account James and I had established. It was an account that only we should have had access to, except I had shared the details with Amanda when she offered to call vendors while I was on a work assignment. When confronted, she denied any knowledge, suggesting the bank had made an error. My journalist instincts, which had served me well professionally, kicked into high gear. I began documenting every interaction with my family, saving texts and emails, recording phone calls where legally permitted. The pattern that emerged confirmed my worst suspicions. My family, particularly Amanda, with my parents' knowledge, had been systematically using my identity for financial gain for years. Using a contact from a previous investigation, I ran a deeper background check on my own name. The results were staggering. My Social Security number had been used to open over a dozen credit accounts, take out personal loans, and even secure a second mortgage on my parents' home. Most disturbing were the tax returns filed in my name, showing income from my father's accounting firm for years when I was working full-time in Chicago. When I tried to discuss these findings with my parents, they closed ranks. "You've always been jealous of Amanda's success," my mother accused. "Now you're trying to create drama before her big hospital promotion just to steal attention for your wedding." "What hospital, Mom?" I asked quietly. "Amanda isn't a doctor. She never finished medical school. I have proof." My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. "You will not spread lies about this family, Claire. We've given you everything, and this is how you repay us, by trying to destroy your sister's reputation." James's father, a retired attorney, reviewed my evidence and confirmed my fears. "This is serious fraud, Claire. Identity theft, tax evasion, possibly money laundering. The fact that their family doesn't make it legal or ethical." With his guidance, I hired a private investigator friend to dig deeper into my father's accounting firm. The investigator discovered the business was under investigation by the state licensing board for ethical violations and possible fraud. Several former clients had filed complaints alleging financial mismanagement. Meanwhile, Amanda's social media continued to showcase a luxury lifestyle with vacations, designer clothes, and expensive restaurants, despite having no visible means of income. 2 months before the wedding, I received an anonymous email from a former employee of my father's firm. "Your father and sister have been using multiple identities for financial transactions. They're sinking fast and taking others down with them. Be careful." Despite the mounting evidence, I was torn about how to proceed. These people were my family despite their treatment of me. Did I want them arrested? Did I want to sever ties completely? As I struggled with these questions, the wedding preparations continued. My parents insisted that Amanda give a toast at the reception despite my clear statement that only the maid of honor and best man would be speaking. It's tradition for the sister of the bride to say a few words. My mother argued, though no such tradition existed. During the final dress fitting, Amanda created a scene claiming her dress needed significant alterations because she had lost so much weight from the stress of surgical residency. When the seamstress gently pointed out that the dress was actually too tight, not too loose, Amanda stormed out, accusing everyone of jealousy. A week later, while finalizing the guest list, I discovered Amanda had added names of people I didn't know to the invitation list and had apparently sent them invitations without my knowledge. When confronted, she claimed they were important medical colleagues who could be valuable connections for James and me. James and I spent a long evening discussing whether to confront my family before the wedding or wait until afterward. "Whatever you decide, I support you," he said. "But remember, you deserve to enjoy your wedding day without this cloud hanging over you." We decided to proceed with the wedding as planned, but prepared ourselves for potential disruption. James arranged for additional security at the venue, and we alerted our wedding planner to the family tension. We hoped for the best, but braced for the worst, neither of us imagining just how dramatically things would unfold. On my wedding morning, the Chicago Botanic Garden was transformed into a dream come true. The rose garden glowed in the early summer sunlight, white chairs arranged in neat rows facing an arch twined with wildflowers and trailing greenery. Inside the garden's glass atrium, my bridesmaids helped me prepare their excited chatter, creating a bubble of joy around me. Zoe adjusted my veil, her eyes suspiciously bright. "You look absolutely stunning, Claire. James is going to lose his mind when he sees you." My dress was simple but elegant, an off-shoulder gown with delicate lace detailing and a modest train. I felt beautiful and strong, ready to begin this new chapter. Amanda arrived an hour late, disrupting the calm atmosphere we had established. Her eyes were bloodshot, her movements unsteady. Though she had not yet changed into her bridesmaid dress, I could smell alcohol on her breath at 11 in the morning. "Sorry I'm late," she slurred slightly. "Had to take the edge off. You know how it is on big family days." She dropped her makeup bag, spilling its contents across the floor. As Zoe and the other bridesmaids scrambled to help her collect her things, my mother swept into the room. Instead of addressing Amanda's obvious intoxication, my mother immediately began fussing over her. "Amanda, darling, you look exhausted. These hospital shifts are killing you." She turned to me with a tight smile. "Claire, couldn't you have scheduled your wedding when your sister wasn't in the middle of a crucial rotation? So inconsiderate." I took a deep breath, remembering James's words from the night before. "Today is about us beginning our life together. Nothing else matters." I turned to my mother with a calm I didn't entirely feel. "Mom, I need some time with just my bridesmaids now. The makeup artist needs to finish with me before the photographer arrives for pre-ceremony shots." My mother looked affronted, but allowed herself to be ushered out. Amanda, however, collapsed dramatically into a chair. "I can't believe my own sister is kicking our mother out, after all they've done for you." Zoe, always my protector, stepped between us. "Amanda, let's get you some coffee and water. You'll want to be present for your sister's special day." Her tone was kind but firm as she guided Amanda from the room, giving me a moment of peace. A text from James arrived, a lifeline of normalcy in the escalating tension. "Can't wait to see you. You've made me the happiest man alive already, and the best part hasn't even started yet. I love you." The ceremony itself was beautiful beyond my expectations. Walking down the aisle on the arm of James's father, an arrangement we had made after my own father insisted on giving a speech about family loyalty during the rehearsal dinner, I felt a surreal calm. The gathered guests, the floral scents, the string quartet playing softly, all created a moment of perfect peace. James waited at the altar, his eyes never leaving mine as I approached. When our officiant asked who supported this marriage, James's parents and Aunt Sarah stood together, a chosen family united in genuine love. We exchanged vows we had written ourselves, promises of honesty, support, and partnership that felt especially meaningful given the deception that had characterized so much of my family life. "I promise to be your truth in a world of convenient lies," James said, his voice steady and sure. "To see you fully and love you completely." As we were pronounced husband and wife, I felt a weight lifting. Whatever happened next with my family, I had created something real and true with James. We had built a foundation of honesty that could withstand any storm. The reception began smoothly enough. The garden pavilion was decorated with twinkling lights and wildflower arrangements. Guests mingled during cocktail hour, while James and I took photos among the garden's most beautiful settings. By the time we entered the reception as a married couple, I allowed myself to hope that perhaps the day would unfold without incident. My father's toast was stiff and impersonal, focusing mainly on the importance of family loyalty and tradition, rather than offering any personal anecdotes about me or well wishes for our marriage. "The Thompson family has always valued commitment," he said, raising his glass. "May you both honor those commitments in all aspects of life." The subtle warning in his words was not lost on me. Dinner service had just begun when Amanda abruptly stood, clinking her knife against her champagne glass with such force I feared the crystal would shatter. "I'd like to make an unscheduled toast," she announced, her words slightly slurred. My heart sank as she stumbled toward the microphone at the front of the room. "For those who don't know me, I'm Amanda Claire's sister." She paused, swaying slightly. "The successful one." An uncomfortable titter ran through the crowd. "At least that's what everyone thinks." James reached for my hand under the table, a silent reassurance. Our wedding planner moved toward Amanda, but she waved her away aggressively. "My perfect sister Claire," Amanda continued, her voice taking on a bitter edge. "Always so righteous with her journalist integrity and her perfect boyfriend, now husband. Little Miss Truth Seeker. Well, I have some truths to share today." My father stood up, his face flushed with anger. "Amanda, that's enough. Sit down now." Amanda ignored him, her grip on the microphone tightening. You want to know the real truth about the golden child I've been stealing my sister's identity for years. She laughed, a harsh, broken sound that echoed through the suddenly silent room. Credit cards, loans, even tax returns, all in Claire's perfect name while she was off playing investigative reporter. Gasps rippled through the guests. James's father moved to stand near us, a protective gesture I appreciated as the situation spiraled out of control. And guess what? Mom and Dad knew all about it. Amanda's voice rose hysterically. They've been using Claire's credit for family expenses since she left for college. Dad's business has been failing for years. Mom's real estate license was suspended for ethics violations. We lost everything when I was in college, but heaven forbid the neighbors find out. My father lunged toward the microphone, but Amanda danced away, continuing her drunken confession. The golden child was just a front for the family fraud. We've been living on Claire's stolen credit while treating her like she was nothing. And the best part? She had no idea until recently, because she was never good enough for them to bother telling her anything important. My mother had her face buried in her hands, while my father finally reached Amanda, attempting to physically remove her from the microphone. James's father stepped forward, placing himself between Amanda and my increasingly aggressive father. "Sir, I think you need to step back," he said firmly. "Let's not make this situation worse than it already is." The room had erupted into shocked murmurs. Some guests looked horrified, others embarrassed, many simply confused. James stood and gently pulled me to my feet. "Claire, what do you want to do?" he asked quietly. In that moment of chaos and public humiliation, the strangest feeling washed over me: relief. The truth, however ugly, was finally out in the open. The decades of gaslighting, of being made to feel less than, suddenly collapsed under the weight of Amanda's drunken confession. "I want to stay," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. "This is our wedding. I'm not letting them take this day from us, too." The venue's security, alerted by our wedding planner, arrived to escort my parents and Amanda out. As they were led away, Amanda's final shout echoed through the room. "I'm sorry, Claire. I'm so sorry they made me the golden child. It was all a lie." In the stunned silence that followed their departure, I stepped up to the microphone, my heart pounding, but my resolve firm. "Well, that was certainly not on our reception timeline," I said, eliciting nervous laughter from the guests. "James and I want to thank you all for sharing our special day. The truth is, family comes in many forms. Today, we're grateful for the family we've chosen and the honest love we've found. So please stay, celebrate with us, and help us make some better memories to replace what you just witnessed." In the days following our wedding, James and I escaped to a small beachfront cottage on Lake Michigan rather than taking our planned honeymoon to Europe. We needed time to process what had happened and to begin addressing the legal implications of my family's actions. The quiet mornings watching the sunrise over the water gave me space to sort through the tangle of emotions. "I keep swinging between anger and grief," I told James as we walked along the shore one evening. "Part of me wants to press charges immediately. Another part still can't believe my own family would do this to me." James squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you. There's no right way to handle betrayal on this scale." When we returned to Chicago, the full extent of the identity theft became clear. My credit report showed over 20 accounts opened in my name, totaling nearly $300,000 in debt. Tax returns had been filed using my Social Security number, showing income from my father's business that I never received. There were even medical bills and collections for procedures Amanda had undergone using my insurance information. "This is one of the most extensive cases of family identity theft I've seen," said the fraud investigator we hired. "The good news is that because you can clearly prove you were living in another state during these transactions, we have a strong case for removing these debts from your record." My parents attempted to contact me repeatedly, their messages oscillating between apologies and blame. "We only did what was necessary to maintain our standard of living," my father wrote in an email. If you'd been more involved with family matters instead of chasing your writing career, none of this would have happened. My mother's approach was emotional manipulation. "You're destroying this family with your accusations," she sobbed during a voicemail. "After everything we've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us, by humiliating us publicly." I saved every communication, but responded to none. On the advice of our attorney, I was building a case while focusing on repairing my credit and legal identity. The process was exhausting and often overwhelming, but James and his family provided unwavering support. Amanda reached out in a different way. A month after the wedding, she checked herself into a rehabilitation facility for alcohol addiction. She sent a handwritten letter that stood out from my parents' defensive communications. "I know an apology can't fix what I've done," she wrote. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, just trying to take responsibility for my part in hurting you. The truth is, being the golden child was its own kind of prison. I was never allowed to fail or show weakness, so I started drinking to cope with the pressure. When I couldn't live up to their expectations, Dad suggested using your information just once to help me through a tough spot. That once became a pattern that spiraled out of control. I'm not making excuses, just finally facing the truth. I hope someday you can believe that I truly am sorry." Her words didn't erase the damage, but they offered a perspective I hadn't considered. The golden child pedestal had been its own form of manipulation, trapping Amanda in a cycle of impossible expectations and deception. Meanwhile, my father's accounting firm collapsed under the weight of the state investigation. Multiple clients came forward with allegations of financial mismanagement and fraud. His professional license was suspended pending a formal hearing. My mother, facing the social humiliation she had always feared, retreated from public life, canceling her country club membership and avoiding former friends. After consulting with James and our attorney, I made the difficult decision to file formal charges against my parents. "It's not about revenge," I explained to Aunt Sarah, who had become a true ally throughout the ordeal. "It's about accountability and protecting others they might harm." The legal process moved slowly, but 6 months after our wedding, my father pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and tax evasion. He was disbarred and sentenced to 5 years in prison, though he would likely serve less with good behavior. My mother received probation and community service as part of a plea agreement, having been deemed less directly involved in the financial crimes. Throughout this period, I continued my work as a journalist, eventually channeling my personal experience into a powerful series about identity theft within families. The articles explored the unique betrayal of having one's identity stolen by those who should provide protection, not exploitation. The series won a National Journalism Award and led to speaking engagements where I shared my story with others who had experienced similar betrayals. "You've turned your pain into purpose," James said after one particularly emotional presentation. "You're helping people realize they're not alone in these family nightmares." Rebuilding my credit and legal identity took over a year of persistent effort. Each cleared debt, each corrected record felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that had been stolen. James's parents, who had welcomed me as a daughter from the beginning, provided emotional support that helped me redefine what family could be. Aunt Sarah moved to Chicago to be closer to us, renting an apartment in our neighborhood and becoming a regular presence in our lives. "I always knew you were the strong one," she told me over dinner one evening. "I just never imagined you'd need to be this strong." 18 months after the wedding revelation, Amanda completed her rehabilitation program and moved into a halfway house. She found work as an administrative assistant at a small medical office, a modest position compared to the fictional medical career our parents had fabricated for her, but one she seemed to find genuine satisfaction in. She reached out again, asking if we might meet for coffee. After discussing it with James and my therapist, a valuable addition to my support system during this journey, I agreed to a brief meeting in a public place. Amanda looked dramatically different from the polished, perfect sister I had grown up with. Her clothing was simple, her face free of makeup, her expression open in a way I had never seen before. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," she said, her voice steady, though her hands trembled slightly. "I know I don't deserve it." Our conversation was awkward at first, but gradually developed an honesty that had never existed between us. "I envied you," she admitted. "Your courage to leave to build your own life. I was too afraid to disappoint them, so I became whatever they wanted, even when it destroyed me inside." "They set us against each other from the beginning," I reflected. "You weren't my enemy, Amanda. The system they created was. We didn't resolve everything in that one meeting, nor did I offer immediate forgiveness. But we established a tentative connection based on truth, rather than competition or deception. It was a fragile beginning, but a beginning nonetheless. 2 years after our wedding day revelation, James and I welcomed our daughter Sarah, named after the aunt who had always seen my worth. As I held my newborn, I made a silent promise that she would grow up knowing her value came from within, not from external validation or comparison to others. My journey from disappointing daughter to confident woman had come at a tremendous cost. The family I was born into had shattered under the weight of their own deception. But from those broken pieces, I had crafted something new and precious, a life built on honesty, a chosen family bound by genuine love, and the knowledge that my worth had never been determined by their assessment. The most powerful lesson I learned was that family is ultimately about choice. We can choose honesty over appearance, support over competition, and love over manipulation. We can choose to break cycles of toxicity and create new patterns for future generations. Most importantly, we can choose to define our own worth rather than accepting the flawed valuations of others. As for my parents, I maintained strict boundaries with minimal contact. Reconciliation may or may not be possible in the future, but it would require genuine accountability and changed behavior, not just words. Meanwhile, Amanda and I continue our cautious rebuilding, two sisters learning to relate as adults rather than as the roles we were assigned in childhood. The truth about my sister may have come to light in the most dramatic way possible, but that revelation ultimately freed us both from the toxic family dynamic that had defined our lives for so long. Sometimes it takes a complete collapse of the familiar to build something authentic in its place. What about you? Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed your perspective on your childhood? Or have you experienced being compared to a sibling in ways that shaped your self-image? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if my story resonated with you. Remember, your worth isn't determined by family labels or others' expectations. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength in writing your own story, whatever challenges you may face.